Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Art and Culture Commission monthly meeting. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2016, and roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
Here.
Derhovanesian?
Here.
Oshigan?
Present.
Sahakian?
Here.
Chairperson Sharikian?
Here.
The agenda for the October 20th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on October 17th, 2016.
Next item.
Item 2, consent items. At 2A, approval of regular meeting minutes from September 15th, 2016.
Do I have a motion to approve the meeting records?
I have one correction.
Sure, go ahead.
On page, just a correction on the minutes, just a minor typo on item 3D. It was Ms. Carrillo as opposed to Mr. Carrillo, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I think that's
Am I
Ms. Castillo instead of Carrillo.
Ms. Carrillo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve with changes?
Okay, second. Changes. Second. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Derhovanesian?
Abstain?
Oshigan?
Yes.
Sahakian?
Yes.
Chairperson Sharikian?
Yes. Next item.
Item 3, introductions and presentations. At 3A, Library Arts and Culture events presented by Chuck Wyke, Community Relations Manager.
Good afternoon, Chair Sharikian, Commissioners, City staff. October has been a very busy month. Oddly, even though we've closed the Central Library at the beginning of September, we seem to be busier than ever with a number of events, author events that are taking place next door at the Adult Recreation Center. And one in particular I want you to know about. It's in your family events. It's author Catherine Applegate. She's going to talk about her book, The One and Only Ivan. This is the 10th year that the Children's Department has held its One Book, One Glendale reading event for younger readers. We're really excited about this. She's a great author. It was a real fun book. And there is also a non-perishable or canned food drive at the same time, and we'll distribute those items locally. But that's coming up in December, so I didn't want to forget that. And then, what else is new? Our Central Library is closed, but 4 of our locations have 7-day-a-week service. Brand Library, Casa Verdugo, Montrose, and Pacific Park. Each of these sites is open 7 days a week. That means they're open on Sundays, so it's a great time to come up and visit Brand. In the past, Brand has been closed Sundays and Mondays, so we like to see people up there. Here's something you're familiar with. The Beyond the Box program took place this weekend, same time as the Open Studio Tour. I'll just run through some of these photos. 14 artists really did a smashing job on these boxes. This one, I picked 3 sides because there's so many cool images on there, the musicians. The neighborhoods were honestly very urban, almost industrial at times. And as you can tell from the artwork, the boxes really pop and give the streetscape a real nice vibe. And one more, this guy. This is right across from the cemetery. Here's the close-up. From a distance, yeah, it's pretty neat. So again, beautifying the neighborhoods, giving a little different identity to Glendale, and really contributing to all the now 84 boxes that you have commissioned over the last 3 years. Next, the gas station at the Adams Square Mini Park. Your selection committee took a look at a number of applicants, chose 4, and the first one up, kind of almost an interim sort of situation. He's going to be there from the more or less the beginning of October through Halloween. Bob Kaufman is an animator, artist. He's also taught, and his artwork is called The Haunted Gas Station. So there's a reception put on by the Adams Square Neighborhood Association this Saturday at 4:30. That's October 22nd. You can bring a dog. So I'll see you all with your dogs there. I will bring mine. And you can participate in a Halloween parade. Nexus and In a Dream. The opening reception is Saturday, November 5th. This is up at Brand Library. It's a joint exhibition coming up with Think Space. They're in Culver City. Think Space Gallery. They are established with a commitment to the promotion and dissemination of young and emerging art. And then they're also working with, let me get the right name here, a gallery in Mexico City, Mexico's 5024 MX Gallery. They also have offices in Portland and San Francisco. But that's, again, another modern-looking, contemporary gallery. There will be a lot of murals involved with this particular installation, dual installation. For the reception, Brand Library is going to feature DJs, a cash bar, and food trucks, and a live performance from one of the artists, Lucien Shapiro. So, November 5th at 6 p.m., that's a Saturday. Again, at Brand Library, they have a program for families. They've done it a couple of years now called Music Animated. The Honolulu Avenue Strummers will bring their ukulele magic to the Brand Library, bless you, on Saturday, November 5th at 10:30 in the morning. This picture was taken in Central Park. You may remember your installation that was there. So this is the group that's coming. Brand Library is also noted now for doing book groups, but they include an art component. So you read the book, you discuss it, maybe you have tea, but you also make some art. So this one they're working on in November. On November 12th is Brooklyn. There's a movie out by the same name, and there's going to be some art, self-made art. You can all go up there and do things. They also have for many years had the Los Angeles Opera outreach group come and talk about the various operas that are scheduled for the LA Opera, and they're going to do a talk on Wonderful Town. Sorry, that should be November 12th. Another kind of art-ish project, Yarn Project from the Heart and Jewel City Knitters. We've had these volunteer groups for a number of years. They come to a couple of our different branches, and you can learn how to knit or crochet at either one of these events. There's November 5th at Montrose, 1 p.m., or November 12th at 2 p.m. at the Chevy Chase Library. Another event at Brand Library, authors Daryl Holter and William Deverell will talk about their book, Woody Guthrie, L.A., 1937 to 1947. Real good look at the music and the life of Woody Guthrie. Just a reminder that we subscribe to Freegal. It's a free music service, so you can download or stream albums, tunes. There are millions literally millions of tunes available to you for free. Yes, the Central Library is closed. Our other branches are open. We will reopen again in March of 2017. If you have any questions, call me at 548-2030. Library administration will be glad to answer any questions. We have a website. We're on social media. We'll do what we can to answer your questions.
Any comments or questions? No comments? Okay. I just want to say that I was around the utility box, and some of the artists were very happy, and most of them were experienced enough to join, and I asked them how did they hear about our program. The website and the internet helped us a lot, I guess. And most neighbors were very excited to see new artworks and paintings. And I want to appreciate all the staff people that they made this happen. Thank you.
I just want to mention that at least 2 of our boxes were painted by youth. One is a high school student from Daly, and another was a high school student from Burbank High School. So we're really excited to get the youth involved, and they did outstanding, phenomenal work. We're looking forward to bringing them into your meeting next month and having them be introduced to the public. Thank you.
Sounds great. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, a quick question. Were there any snags and issues, that we should consider that during the utility box paintings?
We eliminated one concern that commission had. We were able to contract out and get the boxes cleaned and primed before.
Right. That was the plan, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the plan. We were able to do that, and it freed up the artists to get their work done on time. Everybody finished on time. That was maybe telling that was a good idea to do that on our end also. We didn't have to wait or whatever for that. Some of the parking was a little tough. There's not much we could do. It was on Colorado in the middle of kind of nowhere. So it was even hard to stop by and get a picture of the boxes afterwards. But the artists, at least I haven't heard anything, they didn't say anything about that. I did notice that some of the boxes, the new and the old ones, have attachments built on that I sort of saw popping up. So I'll have to talk to our Public Works Department and see what the story is with that. Some of the older boxes actually have those kind of little pods attached. They built the base for them. I think they're permanent. The bases now stretch out in front of the box, and there's an attachment. So I took a picture, and I'll talk to Public Works about that. But that's something we'll build in to the next time, just another can of paint's worth of work. But I don't know. Maybe Sharon heard something more from the artists that day.
No, the artists seemed very happy. They were accommodated. I spoke to several of them before we went out. Our intern spoke to every artist before the installation date to make sure they had what they wanted. We gave them snack bars, water, and they're very happy. A couple of people did want to languish theirs into the week, and we were very adamant that they needed to finish over the weekend, and everyone did. I was impressed that some of the really complicated work was done quickly. Probably has to do with the skill levels of the artists, but I think it went really well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Chuck.
Welcome.
All right. Next item.
At 3B, Glendale Cool Nights, Maryland and Paseo, presented by Jennifer McLean, Principal Economic Development Officer, Community Development.
Great. Well, good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. The last time you saw me was back in August, and you were kind enough to fund our Maryland Paseo pilot program. So I wanted to take this opportunity first to thank you for supporting this pilot program and to really give you an update on your investment and where we're at today. So I know I saw some familiar faces at the pilot, and it actually launched on August 31st. This is a photo that was taken during one of our events during Tech Week. And during this whole pilot program, it's been very interesting to see some of the responses from the drivers, the visitors, the businesses, the folks who have invested money in some of the programming. And I'm very happy to report that the feedback has been so positive that we would like to continue the pilot program through the end of the year. And in January, we would like to present an update to Council with a recommendation with a few infrastructure changes to continue to keep this as a permanent feature. So I, in large part, really attribute the warm response and embrace to the Paseo, really to the funding that you were able to allocate to us for the programming. We also have some partners in the room here too, Open Arts or Glendale Arts. They were kind enough to fund some of the programming as well. So if you had a chance to pop by You can see this was the schedule of events. So our approach on this was, well, let's have a lineup throughout September of activities. And this gave us a great opportunity to see what worked, too. What time frames work best for folks, what types of programming. And to the left here, you could see some of the Aztec dancers, which was a lot of fun to see. Some of the dancers actually walk down the Maryland garage and then end up dancing. And it attracted a very nice crowd. And then on the right, you can see some of the other events and all the events listed and hosted by the Arts and Culture Commission. All in all, though, I will say that attendance was, I guess it was to be expected. Some of the feedback we got, at least on our side, is what can we do to improve this? And I think marketing was one of the pieces that we heard we can continue to invest in. The lunchtime activities, we had about 15. So for this group, you did not fund any of the lunchtime activities. But again, it's helpful to see what people came out to. In the evening, we saw typically more about average of 30 folks. And then you had some of the passerbys as well. In a survey that we did, we found that the evening programming, generally between 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., is what folks would really like to see. So that's helpful to know moving forward. And we also got feedback on the days of the week as well, which is typically Thursday through Sunday. This is just a picture of one of the afternoon concerts, but what I like about this is, well, one, this was one of the pictures that was featured. The Glendale News Press ended up doing an article about the Paseo and our efforts. But you can see, too, we tried to utilize some art, and we have some interactive art displays that we ended up putting in one of the units that the city owns. And then on a neighboring unit, we used the Brand Associates, which Sharon Garrett was kind enough to put us in contact with, and proved to be a very beautiful display. And we also had some great responses, too, on Twitter, and then internally within our city resources, we were able to come up with a nice little commercial for it. So generally what we saw from the survey responses is about 71% want it closed permanently. And 71% of the folks really like it for the outdoor seating element, which is good. For us, what that means is that we don't necessarily need to invest so much money in necessarily programming it with activities, but it still might be an opportunity to invest some time and energy in placing other elements of public art or perhaps passive games like corn throw. Most folks prefer in the evening time, and I'll just highlight that we received 4 complaints, which I cannot believe, quite frankly. So it has generally been very, very welcomed by the community, by the business community, and we're working on a few of those tweaks as well. So with that said, I would just like to close by letting you know that as we move forward through this holiday season, we'll be, again, partnering with some of the folks at Downtown Glendale Association to do holiday decorations, but there's still opportunities. In many senses, this is like a blank canvas. There's one unit that's available to put some art. We have 131 North Maryland, so that's an opportunity should this commission wish to move forward with that. And there's also programming that you're welcome to take on as well. But really, it has been a success, and we want to thank you for all of your support. And I'd be happy to take any questions, and certainly any feedback you have. That's partly why I'm here, too. So I'd love to hear your comments on this.
Okay. Yes, Terry.
So the bucket list, is that a chalkboard where people can put in what they want to see happen in that area? Is that what that's for?
It is. Well, really what this was inspired by an artist that I saw, Candy Chang.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to go too dark, so we tried to lighten up with questions. So what we've ended up doing is really just changing the questions out. And this was really a DIY type project, and we just put some chalk wall paper up on that window.
Cool. Is that still up, or will remain up then through the end of the year?
It is still up. It could probably use a little bit more love because the sun it beats on it pretty hard. But yeah, so this is something that is an interesting opportunity as well. These units are, if you had an idea of what you would like to put in that window area, we'd love to work with you.
Is that the 131? Or is that a different?
This one is actually, I think it's 125 North Maryland. 131 is on, it's the last unit on the the north side.
So are you guys monitoring that, and just kind of tracking what people are saying, and then is it being put out on social media or kept internally for future use?
Well, actually, the intent of this is really just to make it more lighthearted. So I think one of the questions up right now is, what do you want to be for Halloween? So initially it was, I think the bucket list was really just what is on your bucket list. So we've changed the questions out just to keep it fun and lighthearted. But we have been monitoring it because folks are very creative when given, when given a piece of chalk and a blank canvas.
The other question or a thought that I have is that if this does get extended or brought to council for continuation as a permanent enclosure, we had talked about this when you were here previously, I would love to see the conversation around any type of seating, if that's as something that people are really interested in, but that take on some sort of artistic bent so that some of the permanent features of the space as it gets transformed, that we're bringing artists into that conversation from the beginning in terms of what it could be and what elements could be added, and then bringing in artists to actually maybe do some of those installations, not just the public art work, but the permanent structures that make it more of a usable space for people.
If I could just add that, of course, this area is a really nice piece of real estate for our public art master plan. So we do hope that within that plan, this area will be programmed not just with temporary art, but in mindful of the opportunity.
Sure. I mean, I would hope the master plan will look at that overall for how we're using arts in our infrastructure, but in particular, this is a great possibility to move on because the master plan won't be done by then. But great point on that. And the other quick question I had was the 131, is that the space that is currently under city control then? I'm just trying to remember.
That is correct.
And how long do we anticipate that being available under city control? Like, is that something that's going to be transferred over to a private ownership at any point?
It will end up switching ownership. It may end up switching ownership to from one semi-city entity to another city entity. Okay. But that still may not happen for another 6 months, at least. So that whatever temporary display we would have, we would be able to utilize it for at least 6 months.
Great. Thank you.
Right.
Having been there twice, it was a fantastic event. I was out of the country, otherwise I would have joined most of the nights. There was a lot of effort put for this, and I do agree that it's a great venue for exposing art and having artists to actually being there. One thing I would have liked to see more was the participation from the shopkeepers and especially the ones that they are providing food. So I know that it was a very hard situation because if you guys had booths from different people who would offer food, that might have kind of be not working very well with those stores or those restaurants that are on the same street. But meanwhile, some of them closed down and went, and I was very unhappy about that, which I thought they should have been there the whole time because that was their special event. So it was for them, not we are doing this to make Maryland much more alive. So I hope there will be more communication. First of all, having for the artists and having a kind of a major master plan into how we are going to utilize this, and also a more communication with the shopkeepers or the restaurants to see how they want to negotiate. If they're okay with it, then to have vendors to come because that kind of brightens and when there is food, there is much more happening, especially food and art together makes a nice combination. So hopefully that would work. But besides that, it was a wonderful evening. The music was so alive and so beautiful. Really, I just wish more people would be aware of it and more people would come, most probably because I was at the beginning. So more has happened while I was not there, I suppose. So it's fantastic. Good job. Thank you for staff, and thank you for you and all the people who were involved and support this special project. It's wonderful.
Great. Thank you for all your comments.
I just want to remind my colleagues that this is a question. It's not a discussion issue. It's a report, basically, and the recommendation or our comments has to be short and to the point. And it's not a discussion issue. It's a matter of just asking questions.
Asking or responding.
Thank you.
The
Go ahead.
I want to echo my fellow commissioners' thoughts that I was down there, and I think it's a great space. It's kind of a unique space for Glendale to have this pedestrian walk. So I think it's very important. If it's possible to continue it, I think we should continue it and get the commission involved early on before the paseo is going to be closed, so we can get involved and get whatever kind of art that we can get in there. I think it's a great space. A couple of questions. How do you measure success then on this? You said it's successful, but what is the measure and that you use to say it's successful? And also, what were some of those complaints? I'm interested. Who would complain? What were the complaints?
Well, very great question about measuring success. I think initially from some of the folks, when we would go out there, our initial response was, oh no, this isn't successful because we're not seeing as many people as we thought. Rather, for us, the success is really the number of complaints received and the fact that it has been so positively responded to that folks want to continue to see this happen. So that is really the basis for what we're determining success as. Just so you know, I'll also be checking with the police department to just see if there were any additional traffic incidences, because that was another one of our big concerns, was really what is the impact on traffic in this. So I might prematurely be saying that it is a success because I haven't pulled that report, but generally it was the number of complaints received, and seeing that overwhelmingly it has been received positively. We're taking that as a successful measure. And you had another point.
What are the complaints? 4 complaints.
Oh, yeah. So those complaints were they were various from some of the businesses, or rather 2 businesses concerned about how this was impacting their loading. So the loading into their business from everything from Staples or some of the food deliveries. So that was something we were expecting. And we've been working to monitor and alleviate some of those. And then there were some folks who were just, it was really the drivers and the impact that it had on their getting in and out of the parking garages. Those are really those 4 complaints.
Isa?
First, I want to just commend you on it. I think it's something that has been talked about for such a long time, and it's nice to see it happen. And I can appreciate the reality that a few weeks is not really enough time to measure how successful this can or can't be. But just generally with the traffic you saw, was it people coming to it as a destination, or was it more so the local businesses and employees coming out and joining the activities at the Paseo?
So we did ask a question in a survey on how people found out about the Paseo, and then of course we had our own observations as well. So it seemed that for the most part, folks were either walking by, driving by, or they happened to be working within those businesses nearby and saw some of the marketing materials as well. And I know Jess Castillo, for example, with Glendale Arts, when they hosted a few of their events, I know she and her staff were running out to brand and letting folks know about what was happening. And it seemed that she and her team had success in getting folks over as well. Also, for the Arts and Culture Commission, there seems to be quite a following for the artists and the performances that are put on. So it seemed that some of it was that folks were there to see that particular performer, and that's something. If we were to move forward with this, I would be really interested on trying to figure out how we can further capitalize on that. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Great.
And we'll
Thank
see you again.
Very good.
Next item, please.
Item 3C, Open Arts Music Festival, presented by Jess Castillo, Special Events Coordinator, Glendale Arts.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess. I'm the Special Events Coordinator at Glendale Arts. I'd like to thank you for your time today. It's nice to see you again. I think it's been a little while. On behalf of Glendale Arts, oh, that's right, I have this clicker thing. Boom. All right, on behalf of Glendale Arts, I will be giving a brief overview of the first annual Open Arts Music Festival, which occurred in downtown Glendale at Glendale Central Park. The first annual Open Arts and Music Festival was a free all-day event on Saturday, September 17, 2016, which appealed to families, arts appreciators, and members of the community. We at Glendale Arts, our partners and our sponsors believe that The arts are an essential ingredient in a vibrant, creative, and economically healthy community, and that a great city is defined by its arts. Our goals are to provide income generation for the city of Glendale, to offer economic support for local businesses, artists, and arts organizations, and bring quality and affordable arts and entertainment to the city of Glendale. The programming for the Open Arts and Music Festival offered live music, an arts market, a kids area with a rock climbing wall, food trucks, and a public art installation, and beer and wine gardens. Featured musicians, artists, and businesses include Brewyard Beer Company, Eagle Rock Brewery, Califia Farms, Beirut, Madame Gandhi, Gavin Turek, Mariachi Arco Iris de Los Angeles. And then we also featured free artist workshops such as card making with LA Parent Magazine, an improv theater workshop with Antius Theater, DIY ceramics with Hand and Machine Studio, and the projection mapping piece by DIY Girls. In addition, Glendale Arts was honored to receive support from the Library Arts and Culture Commission, Glendale Arts' own art fund, the Downtown Glendale Association, the Los Angeles County Arts Commission, KCET, LA Weekly, and SoCal Gas. And we were thrilled to have worked with local partners such as Glendale Tech Week, Street Food Cinema, CBRE, the Americana at Brand, ESM Productions, the Museum of Neon Art, plus many others. We all know that in order to connect with your city, you must actively engage with your city, and Glendale Arts utilized a variety of outreach methods, and here is what we generated beginning in the spring of 2016. We generated a strong online presence. Between both Glendale Arts and Open Arts and Music Festival accounts, we have 5-star ratings, a steadily growing number of dedicated and active followers, daily activity on all accounts, including likes, reposts, and shares, etc. And leading up to the festival, a weekly average of 100,000 impressions thanks to our sponsors and partners, including media advertising. For our first year, we were able to attract upwards of 3,000 attendees with an average length of stay of about 4 hours, and age ranges between pre-K children to seniors and many young adults in between. So that's quite a wide range. Moving into our financial review, overall, the festival cost $150,000 with one-time expenses amounting to about $20,000, and that included web design, identity and branding, signage, and merchandising. Other fees other costs are sponsorships, which amounted to about $80,000, including $35,000 in kind for city services and media trades. Operations were about $50,000, marketing at $35,000, artist fees at $25,000, production and equipment at $37,000, and miscellaneous fees such as hospitality at about $2,000. So here we are, and we're looking at our next steps. This was our first annual festival, and our team, partners, sponsors, vendors, and attendees all agree that this was a strong start for our first annual event. That said, we're also looking critically at what we can do better. We have released surveys, held a debriefing with all of our team, and resolved to pursue the following steps in order to maintain a sustainable citywide event. And this includes developing new planning committees, and we would invite stakeholders with a variety of skills and communities to help produce our event. We're setting our calendar for 2017. We're updating our sponsorship packet with ESM Productions and beginning our sponsorship outreach. We have submitted grants to the Los Angeles County Arts Commission and the National Endowment for the Arts, and that's a total of 4 grants. We are identifying, securing, and developing new and existing partnerships such as DIY Girls in the San Fernando Valley, Brewyard Beer Company, KCT, and LA Weekly, plus many others. And finally, we're increasing our community outreach and engagement through staff evaluations with a focus on marketing. developing open shows, which are ticketed concerts at unique spaces in Glendale featuring locally acclaimed artistic and musical talent. And then, of course, our ongoing Glendale arts initiatives, such as our year-round pop-ups, the Taste of Downtown Glendale, and many other partnerships events. I would like to thank you for your time. We are grateful for the Library Arts and Culture Commission's vision and foundational support for our first annual event, without which could not have been possible. We would like to invite you to continue to participate by joining our team, planning committees, and our growing arts community, and we hope to see you next year. I would like to open this to any questions and, of course, feedback.
Excellent report. I want to commend you on the way you have reported on the details. Sorry I couldn't be, I was out of town, but all the family members and friends, they said that it was a fantastic event.
Thank you.
It was very well publicized, and they enjoyed it tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
So I guess I have the same question I had earlier. The measure of success for the open arts, is it the tweets and the Instagram feeds, or how would you measure success for this event?
We are measuring it quite a few ways, because there is as much about a focus on attendance. How many of our city members were there? How many of our residents, our vendors? And so having upwards of 3,000 people was incredible for us, because that showed us that there is an interest, there is an engagement, and what we're aiming to do is in line with what the city would like to receive. So that's one measure. Our second measure is on online engagement, which we're looking to increase, and then also our community engagement to bring in more partners. As we move into future years, we're looking to partner with more local businesses directly in the downtown area and then all across the city of Glendale. But then we're also looking at the ways in which we can grow our partnerships. And so that measure of success is really just having happy and satisfied partners and sponsors who want to join in on this as a multi-year engagement. A lot of our agreements thus far are multi-year, so everyone who's joined us for this first year is staying on and really growing this project with us. And so I really deem that not even solely success, but as really faith to move forward. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
And a follow-up, if I could. So, do you think the engagement? So, unfortunately, I was there only in the morning, and I had to go, so I couldn't stay for the public art part of it. So, do you think there was? What was the difference in engagement between the public art part, which was new and a bit innovative, and more of the sort of the music and the stage and the tents and on the other things? So, do you think there was a difference in engagement, and do you think there is a way to move forward in that direction in terms of the public art aspect?
I don't think there was a difference in engagement. One of the things that I noticed is that the public art component actually invited more people to really explore the space, whereas before it began, they were going like program by program, like, oh, I have a kid, let's do the workshops, and then let's enjoy the music. But once the public art came on, it really added a different type of atmosphere to the space. And so really they all fed into each other. I saw families, I myself was speaking with attendees and saying like, hey, how are you doing? Are you enjoying the event? What do you think, etc. And I came across many families who were like, oh yeah, we were here earlier, we grabbed some food, we went to this business, we walked back over, we saw this concert, we did the rock climbing, and now we're just hanging out on the lawn and watching this projection. And so there was a comfortable fluidity in programming, and so I don't think that one outweighed the other, but they actually all benefited because the other was there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next item on the agenda.
Item 3D, Open Studio Tour Recap, presented by 1111 Creative Collective.
May I reiterate what Chair Sharikian mentioned earlier, which is that the presentation should be limited to questions, but not feedback or discussion. We can bring anything back you'd like later on if you'd like.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're just fresh off the weekend,
and with that, we apologize. We do not have the slideshow and the presentation. We literally just wrapped up on Sunday.
So I'm going to kind of give you guys a summary of what happened over the 2 days with the Open Studio Tour, and read off some of the data and the metrics that we collected over the weekend, as well as inform you of what was the overall sentiment of the event.
Excuse me, for the record, can you just mention your names, please?
Addie Renteria with 1111.
And Aaron Stone.
Thank you.
So we had three main goals with this event, and that was based on the RFP that we signed off on. One of the main goals was to reintroduce the Open Studio Tour to artists, all the galleries and the businesses, and the general public after it had been on a 6-year hiatus. The second goal was to create opportunities for local artists and connect them with a larger audience. And the third goal was to create engagement with the overall community. We had 83 artists signed up for the tour. We had 22 stops. We had 663 reserved tickets. And the way that worked, because it was a free event, everything was done online. We generated a raffle, an incentive to have people sign up for there was tickets. And so once you reserved tickets, you were automatically entered into this raffle. And that's the way we collected that data. We had, the stop with the highest attendance was Cope Studios and the Brew Yard with about 150, followed by Geo Galleries with 91 attendants, and an estimated 75 people came to Pacific Park Library, where was the main info booth, and also was an open air market.
We also got feedback from the Brand Library, which we thought was really interesting and wanted to share with you guys. They had a total of about 60 to 70 visitors throughout the 2 days, and the staff at the Brand Art Galleries made it a point to have a conversation with as many of the visitors as possible, as we hope all of the stops did. And interestingly enough, the majority of the visitors at the Brand had never been there before, and were all from, taking the tour. So we thought that was really interesting from a tourism aspect, that this brought people, as we hoped with the event, to visit spaces for the first time, maybe new to Glendale, maybe not even Glendale residents.
Yeah, and on that note, we did some metrics, and it was very interesting to see that 32% of our attendants were Glendale residents, and the other 68% were non-Glendale residents, which is very interesting. We had people come as far as Venice and Marina del Rey doing the tour. So that's really interesting to us, being that it's a Glendale-centric event, and we had very low attendance in terms of Glendale residents coming.
Well, and interestingly enough, of course we hope that number does rise in a sense, that there's more engagement from Glendale community members, but we do also acknowledge that the arts are an economic driver. They're a driver for tourism, and we had, like Addie said, 68% coming out from elsewhere to see what was happening in Glendale. So there's kind of both sides to that, if you know what I mean. Like, on one hand, that's really fantastic.
Yeah. In terms of what we did for marketing, we focused a lot. I think part of our goal was to really re-energize the brand of the studio tour, because it had already happened, and it was basically like we're starting from scratch again. So that was really important for us to really have the branding be recognizable for future years. We focused a lot on social media, as you know, that's kind of how everybody communicates nowadays, but we also had print media, and we connected with Pasadena Weekly, and they did e-blasts, and they did calendars, and we did all of the calendar postings. But our marketing was very much focused in Glendale. And, as you know, we're a San Fernando Valley Arts Collective, and so we reached out to all of our network in the Valley.
We have about 15,000 followers based in the San Fernando Valley. And we saw that the majority of visitors to the event coming outside of Glendale were very much from that network that we have established in the San Fernando Valley. And although geographically very close to each other, we noticed that many people had maybe never been to Glendale and maybe never driven around based on the feedback that we got. As far as marketing goes, as Addie mentioned, we really much focused on a media-rich marketing campaign. Aside from the branding, which we thought was the most important thing to move forward in upcoming years, we focused a lot on video, promotion, professional photography, design, and really wanting to show through all of that the special essence of these studios that people were able to visit, and I think that we did succeed in that. And of course, based on social media, and metrics, video is the way, all the little GIFs and things to get up on social media, so we really focused on that as well.
Yeah, one of the other things we found, we had an average of about 25 people per stop for the 2 days. And I think one of the interesting things that we came across is that because Glendale is so big, we had stops all the way in like La Crescenta area, all the way to, I want to say so we had north side, and then we had central side, and then we had south. And so I don't think most people that took the tour were able to do all of the stops because it's a lot of driving. We surprisingly didn't have any issues with parking, which was an issue that we were a little worried about because it's a self-guided tour, but that wasn't an issue at all. I think most people, we got really positive feedback from all of the artists. Of course, all of them wanted to see more of a turnout, and a way that we think that this can be achieved is if there was designated or dedicated shuttle buses in the future, so that people can take different routes and we can have an equitable attendance to all of the different studios, because there is a disparity from the studios that got 10 people to the studios that got 100 people. And so I think if we were to have dedicated shuttle buses for next or upcoming years, that would really help in that issue.
Predicting the measure of success question.
I wasn't going to ask that.
So the way that 1111 always measures the success of our events is we see, of course, there's all of the on paper, the statistics, the metrics, the number of attendance, which we've kind of gone through. A really big part for us is the two sides of the artists and the talent being happy and the attendance being happy. We did a number of surveys throughout the event and after the event, followed up with all of the attendants and as many of the tour goers as we could. I would say that as Addie mentioned earlier, the response from the tour goers was nothing but positive. Of course, as always, to be candid, there's always complaints. There's always going to be one studio that somebody didn't like as much as the other, or one area that was a little underwhelming. So we absolutely did see that, but the overall response was how wonderful for these artists to invite us into their studios. Man, it was so wonderful to talk to this person one-on-one and buy a piece of artwork from them. And getting to know Glendale even more, especially for those people coming from Mar Vista or Santa Monica, or Marina Del Rey. The measure of success from the artist standpoint, again, everybody wished that they had some more people in their studios, which I think that the shuttle buses, the tour buses, would absolutely help with that. But the visitors that they had, they absolutely loved having them inside their spaces. The tour goers as well as artists all commented on how easy the information was delivered, which we were really happy about that they had no problem receiving the map.
Or navigating the
website, figuring out where to go and what to do. They really enjoyed the recommendation of routes and stops. So we think that the response from the tour goers and the response from the artists were very leveled with each other, balanced, which that we do measure as successful. Any questions, please?
I just want to mention that if you can wrap it up in the next 1 minute, that will be fine.
I think we're open.
Okay.
We're pretty much wrapped up.
Okay.
Feedback.
Any questions or any comments?
I think comments we should not do, right?
Yeah.
It may be beneficial, Chair Sharikian and Commissioners, if I suspect that you would like to discuss this further and ask many more questions. What we could do, staff, we can bring it back to you next time and invite the team back again, and they could answer all your questions and get the feedback that they seek.
Okay.
If I could just say, we're also open to phone calls, emails. Please do contact us. We're happy to talk about it individually or as a group with everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
All right. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not on this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The commission may refer the matter to city staff for investigation and report.
I have Dave Ferguson from Cesara Youth Orchestra.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Dave Ferguson, and I've been involved in arts in Glendale since the mid-1980s, where I served on the Glendale Regional Arts Council. During that time, we brought artists from various arts groups together for the first time to coordinate their art in the city. This resulted in creating art spaces for these groups to display whenever there was a vacant building in the city. We also created a block-long arts fair on Maryland, and as board chair and later executive director, I worked closely with the City Council to refurbish the Alex Theater, which had been unused for a number of years. One of the members of our board, Joe Lazara, started the Glendale Youth Orchestra during the time that we were working on this. In December of 2013, I filed paperwork to have a new organization established based on the sustainable, successful model of El Sistema. El Sistema began in Venezuela to provide music to students in Caracas, which were not able to afford music and often ended up becoming involved in drugs and gangs. One of the most famous students of El Sistema is now the artistic director of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, Gustavo Dudamel. When he came to LA, he insisted that the LA Philharmonic began a similar program and discovered that the Harmony Project already was following this model and had adopted it to LA. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, the LA Phil worked with the Harmony Project to develop 3 programs throughout Los Angeles as part of the LA Phil's project. One of the founders of the Harmony Project became my mentor to establish the Cesura Youth Orchestra. And we have worked very closely with the LA Phil and the Harmony Project. We began with 24 students in the fall of 2014. We now have 73 students who have participated in the programs at the Cerritos Elementary School. We produce a monthly newsletter sharing the progress of the orchestra. We have a website, a Facebook page, and we're working to establish a YouTube channel to share performances. We continually add new organizations as collaborators with our program. We meet with the students Monday through Thursday for 2 hours in an after-school program. Each of those days are a total of 8 hours, meeting with one group as recorder students, and then with our strings and woodwind students who develop. Rather than presenting a PowerPoint today, I decided to give you a handout, which I hope you have, and I'd like to share a few of the highlights from that. If you'd look at some of the evaluations on there, you'll see that we had 28 responses from teachers at the end of last school year, giving them an average of 3.96, where 1 is poor and 5 is excellent.
Excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting, but we have to cut you off at 5 minutes, please.
Okay.
So please wrap up your comments.
Yeah. You'll notice also a number of the samples of the teachers' comments. The students became more confident. They actually became part of a team as they were working with this. And then you'll notice that we have had a number of grants and donations that have come in over this past 3 years since we started the program, including some from Opus Community Foundation, part of Opus Bank, the Community Foundation of the Verdugos, which provided us with information provided us with funding to buy new instruments for some of our students, and multiple grants from Glendale City Church and the Ella Fitzgerald Charitable Foundation. We've also gone out to the community to try and get instruments, and the community's been very responsive to that. We've received over 50 instruments total that we've been able to have refurbished, and these will be used for many years to come because they'll be circulated back into the program. We've also received some great in-kind support. Over the past 2 years, we've made a number of public appearances at Memorial Hospital as part of Taste of Glendale, for parents at Cerritos Elementary, at Roosevelt Middle School, and with the La Sierra University Orchestra. We've had two great articles in the Los Angeles Times, and as you can see, we have a number of next steps that we hope to accomplish very soon. We're working with Glendale TV to provide a documentary, and we have a composer who's working to provide us with a special piece of music that will be used as part of a Christmas program using just the instruments that we have available, and so we'll have a world premiere in December. We're working on expanding our board of directors, and just to finish up, I have two requests for the commission. One is that we'd love to have a member of the commission join our board, and a second is that when I appeared just after we had started the organization, it was suggested that the commission might look at doing some funding to help us, and now the question at that point was sustainability. Now that we've been around for 3 years, we think we are showing that we are sustainable and that we're meeting that criteria, and we'd love to have your support if you could do that. We're also going to be applying to something through the Department of Education, and it would be really great as we work with the Glendale Unified School District to be able to show that the Glendale Arts Commission is a supporter as well.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please. I have Imagine Project, Armina, I have a hard time, La Celana, and Alex Zovin.
Hi, Mr. Chairperson, members of the Commission. Good afternoon.
Excuse me, before you start, I'd just like to ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Armina Lamana, and
I'm Alexander Zonin.
And I'm the Artistic Director of Imagine Project, which is a theater company dedicated to programming entirely for children. We are a union theater company, and we are only the second such theater company in the entire state of California, and only the third in the entire western region. Our headquarters are in Glendale, so we're here today just to tell you about us, to say hello, to get you familiar with the name Imagine Project. We had our inaugural gala and fundraiser at the Colony Theater in Burbank this August. I did invite the entire city council, but I think only one, Laura Friedman, did come and hang out with us, so it was very nice of her. We focus on storytelling for children from the age of about 4 up all the way to 94, and we focus our stories on gender equity and diversity specifically. So I wanted to very quickly show you the poster of our first show, which will be next year, and our presumptive first venue is the Colony Theater for now. So it is a multimedia puppetry experience. The puppets are inspired by Bunraku. They will be about 3 feet tall, and there's a cast of six actors who will be putting on our first production, which is The Tale of Turandot. The Tale of Turandot is, I'm sure many of you have heard the opera Turandot, also the play Turandot, written by Carlo Gozzi, who himself took an old Persian fairy tale and wrote the play. So we took the Persian fairy tale and we are telling the story from Turandot's perspective, which is not of this cold-hearted woman, but rather of a young woman who's being forced to marry against her will, and her way of getting a life where she gets to make decisions. So theater, as you know, it plays a humongous role in teaching empathy. There's been numerous studies have been done to show that today's youth, compared to the youth in the 70s, doesn't have the same empathy, pretty much. Not the same compassion, not the same understanding. They've been desynthesized by technology, by violence. So Alex and I, what we want to do is we want to bring children back to the theater. We want to bring them to the original 3D entertainment, which is theater, and we want to encourage them to take role-playing back home. So instead of
sitting there with devices and
that's good.
And now a common trend.
Yeah, so they can engage in role-playing and talk to each other and grow that way. So the handouts tell you about the 2 openings on our board. Please, whenever you have a moment, please review it. We're also looking for our founding donors. We are a California nonprofit, and we just wanted to introduce ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
And last card, I have Joey Krebs.
Thank you all for inviting me here, and I would like to just formally introduce myself to the great city of Glendale and its supporters as well. I appreciate you taking an interest with my international renowned artwork as well as my collective Art Saves Lives. I'm open to introducing you to my comprehensive aesthetics and its practice, as I would like to introduce you to my creative work as an artist and also an organizer. My intent is to establish an alliance with your offices in presenting my latest creative proposals, which unites art and communities through its invitation with our collective Art Saves Lives. We have assembled a diverse creative team called Art Saves Lives. Our collective is an organization that is committed to social interaction across diverse expressions. We work directly with enlightened individuals like yourselves who speak the new language of media, community groups, and causes to place distinctive images in the public and in the media, raising consciousness. I am the activist artist who created the infamous urban silhouettes for Rage Against the Machine and creatively directed their MTV videos, branding over, and album covers as well, as you can see, a certain section. And those images are mostly productions and MTV videos with Rage Against the Machine performances as well. I've exhibited in many galleries and museums such as SMOA, Art and D, California, CAFMAM, ICA in Philadelphia, and the USC Fisher Museum, with a work titled Cenas de Identidad. Critics such as Christopher Knight and many others have reviewed my work. I look forward to explaining a language of creative discourse with you and your board in conceptualizing gallery exhibition, community events, and distinguished marketing projects through new media platforms. I've shown extensively all over the state of California, America, and Europe. And most recently, it was distinguished critic of Fresno B, Donald Monroe, who recently chronicled a couple of visual picks for its regional area, which focused on a Latino gallery called Arte de Americas. 2 artists that he distinguished were mine, which is a show called These Are a Few of My Favorite Things by the Phantom Street artist, which I serve as a cultural revisionist, who uses the familiar Jack-in-the-Box advertising campaign as pointed social commentary. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to further explain my work as well.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Very informative. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And good luck. Okay, I don't have any other cards. Next item on the agenda, please. Business agenda.
Staff has switched item order. So at 5A1, motion to recommend CARS Goldstein as a consultant to deliver the Glendale Citywide Public Art Master Plan and to present this recommendation to the City Council at its November 15th, 2016 meeting.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chair Sharikian, and Commissioners. I'm Sharon Mangarrett, the public, Principal Library Arts and Culture Administrator. I'm really excited to present this report. We've been working on this for a very long time, so I'm just going to make some brief comments and then introduce you to our consultant. This is basically a motion to recommend Cars Goldstein as the consultant to deliver the citywide public art master plan and to present that recommendation to the City Council at its November 15th, 2016 meeting. In summary, the City Council approved the 2015-2017 work plan of the Arts and Culture Commission and appropriated $380,000 to accomplish activities detailed in the work plan. One of the most important items of the work plan was the hiring of a consultant to deliver and develop a citywide public art master plan. Staff issued a request for proposals to complete the plan to deploy the Urban Art Fund, now totaling over $5 million. Consultants were recruited nationwide because of the high level of expertise and specificity that was required for this assignment. Outreach was focused on known municipal art master plan consultants, public art institutions like universities, public artists, and municipalities that already have public art. 4 submissions were received in time for the deadline. All the commissioners were afforded a copy of the 4 submissions. The RFP had selection criteria basically focused on qualifications and experience in public art master planning. At the May 19, 2016 meeting, Chair Shrikian appointed himself and Commissioner Sahakian to serve along with staff as the interview panel for the 2 firms deemed most responsive. They were Cars Goldstein, who are here with us today, and Now Art. On June 24, 2016, the 2 firms met with commissioners and the staff from Library Arts and Culture. The interviews that we conducted were really focused on the approach of the consultants and how we deemed they might fit within the City of Glendale's culture and framework. The interviews revealed that Cars Goldstein was the only firm of the 2 proposers that stood prepared to meet the challenge of the public art master plan. As also noted was that both of the finalists outlined a budget that exceeded the previously allocated $50,000, proposing initial budgets ranging from $100,000 to $120,000. On the July 21st, 2016 meeting, staff presented this finding to the Arts and Culture Commission. The Commission asked staff to complete 3 assignments. First was to summarize the interview process, which we did at the last meeting. The second assignment was to present Cars Goldstein's project budget, which is included in your packet, especially with regards to the participation and the cost of the partnership principal, Barbara Goldstein, and her involvement. So you have that document. The third assignment was to invite Cars Goldstein's project leaders, Aaron Paley and Barbara Goldstein, to answer any questions, and their presentation will follow this report. I'd just like to briefly introduce them. Aaron Paley is the president and co-founder of Community Arts Resources, CARS, and the founding executive director of Ciclavia, which is the nation's largest open streets event. Paley and business partner Katie Bergen have propelled CARS over the past 27 years to become a leading innovator in the activation of public space through content-driven programming, ephemeral interventions, and new models for design. He's also the founder of Yiddishkeit, the largest organization west of the Hudson dedicated to Jewish Eastern European culture. He's a recipient of the Durfee Foundation's Stanton Fellowship and honorary member of the LA chapter of the AIA. Paley received a BA in architecture from UC Berkeley, College of Environmental Design, and an MBA in nonprofit arts management from UCLA. With 38 years of professional experience, Paley has always been ahead of the curve with hybrid organizational forms, creative placemaking, urban interventions, and transformational cultural and civic events. Barbara Goldstein is an independent consultant focused on creative placemaking and public art planning. She's the former public art director for the City of San Jose, Office of Cultural Affairs, and the editor of Public Art by the Book, a primer published by Americans for the Arts and the University of Washington Press. Ms. Goldstein has directed the public art programs in Seattle and Los Angeles, worked as cultural planner, architectural and art critic, editor, and publisher. She has lectured and participated in workshops on public art in the United States, Japan, China, Taiwan, Korea, Canada, and the Netherlands, and Abu Dhabi. She's the past chair of the Public Art Network for Americans for the Arts. Since 2011, Ms. Goldstein has been consulting for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Pasadena, California, Charlotte, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Palo Alto, Morgan Hill, California, and University of Central Florida. In 2013, she led a series of webinars entitled Creative Placemaking and Public Art for Americans for the Arts. Ms. Goldstein has written extensively about public art and architecture and was the editor and publisher of Arts Plus Architecture magazine from 1980 to 1985. She has served on the board of directors for Art Space and Friends of the Schindler House and the advisory board for Forecast Public Art. She is currently a board member of MACLA, Movimiento de Arte Cultural Latinoamericana, and 01, the Art and Technology Network, where she serves as chair. Lastly, in 2015, Ms. Goldstein was a fellow in Stanford University's Distinguished Career Institute, where she also served as scholar in residence for the School of Chemical and Systems Biology. In 2016, she was awarded the Public Art Network Leadership Award by Americans for the Art. With that, I'll give you Aaron Paley and Barbara Goldstein.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us. There's been a lot been said about this. We're just going to give you an overview of the plan and our approach. The City of Glendale is at a crossroads. The city has changed rapidly in the last 50 years, especially in the last 20 years. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and just walking around with Barbara this afternoon, we were remarking how this is not the Glendale that we remember from many years ago, and it's very exciting to see where Glendale is, and the opportunity for public art is huge here. We talk about public art is something that's not... The definition of public art is being expanded and has been expanded over the years, and Barbara's going to speak to that in depth as well, but it's not just putting a piece of sculpture out there. There's opportunities to think about how things work with time and how things work with space, ephemeral interventions, performing arts, video, things that happen technologically. So there are lots of different ways that public art can interact with the public. Anything on that?
Well, I think that one of the things that's really great about Glendale wanting to do a public art master plan now is that, first of all, your funding source has brought you a substantial pot of money that you have to use in a very broad way. Because Glendale is coming to its public art planning process fairly late compared to what other cities have done, you have an opportunity to really learn from what other cities have done, but also to innovate in ways that has not happened in other places. It'll be really fun to look at what the opportunities are here and also to look at what the opportunities are to expand on the funding sources and to use them in a variety of different ways, ranging from the kinds of things that you're doing now with streetscapes that help to make Glendale a more walkable city, to integrating art into architecture like you see in some of the more historic buildings here, to freestanding work, to changing work, to work that tackles social issues, and work that is event-based.
So the team that we're bringing to you is Barbara Goldstein. Barbara and I have known each other for over 30 years, and this is our first opportunity to actually work together, although we've known each other through the art world all this time. And I'm very excited. I reached out to Barbara to partner with us, and our team from Community Arts Resources, a number of people, two current Glendale residents, Tamara O'Connor and Regina Alcazar, as well as an urban planner and a producer as well. So, Barbara, introduce yourself.
Well, actually, I don't need to because you just read my whole resume, so I think that kind of sums it up. I would say that I flew here actually from Fort Worth, where I'm working on the public art master plan update. I wrote their public art plan with Jessica Cusick 12 years ago, and we were very privileged to be given the contract to update it, even though we were competing with some of our favorite colleagues. So it's really fun to be able to be here. In Las Vegas, I helped them with the public art master plan update. They had a unique situation there. Their public art program was fairly young, and they were looking for how they could expand it and build upon it by building partnerships with other entities and building on a very robust portable arts collection. In Pittsburgh, I worked with the city of Pittsburgh on their general plan. They created a general plan update framework where public art was part of their urban design plan, and I was part of the urban design team and created the arts plan for them. And as part of that, we did this wonderful project that was called Talk Pittsburgh, which was a 90-neighborhood mobile talk show. And this was a way of reaching out to people that would never go to meetings. And this transparent truck that was created by artist John Rubin and Nina Sarnell went to 90 different neighborhoods and parked in front of something that was iconic in that neighborhood. And then the set was a regular talk show set, and they interviewed people from the neighborhood about what they liked about their neighborhood, how they saw it change, and what they wanted to see happen in the future. In Pasadena, I wrote the public art plan that was adopted in 2013, and I'm now acting as a consultant to them on the implementation of that plan. This is one element of a grant that Pasadena got from National Endowment for the Arts, an Our Town grant that helped Pasadena to create a program that addressed the Civic Center. And we did a series of temporary artwork projects that really engage people in civic dialogue. This particular piece by Kat Chu Phillips was a kind of alternative rose float parade that was made out of recycled plastic bags that created roses. They were done as a community arts project, then displayed at the Rose Parade. So this is the work that I'm going to be doing with you. I'll be coming to see you on a regular basis. I will be looking at the issues that are involved in process, policy, procedures, guidelines, things like gifts policy, how memorials policies, all of those kinds of things, looking at the different income streams, as I mentioned before, and looking at what the different opportunities are for developing a public art program that is unique to Glendale.
So we're thrilled to work with Barbara. She's really one of the leaders in the nation in writing public art master plans, and so the fact that we're here together, I think, augurs well for the city. Community Arts Resources is based in Los Angeles. We started in 1988. My partner, Katie Bergen, and I actually began working together in 1982. And we've been creating innovative, out-of-the-box ideas for how art can interact with the public for a very long time. And it's a combination. I have a degree in urban planning, actually from Barbara's husband was my professor at Berkeley, my first urban planning professor. But we're creative curators, we're community advocates, and we work with the city fabric. Sharon gave you my introduction. So here's some of the things that I've helped create. A kind of a seminal creator. I'm the co-founder of Ciclavia, the founding executive director. I'm really proud that I was working with the city of Glendale for the last 3 years to bring Ciclavia to Glendale, which is going to come, I believe, next year. I'm no longer associated with the organization. I resigned so that it could kind of blossom without being part of my organization. We basically, CARS, my company, Community Arts Resources, incubated Ciclavia and brought it to life. And I basically was running two companies, the nonprofit and my company, for about 6 years. Coast is an open streets event like Ciclavia that we did in Santa Monica for the city. About 50,000 people attended. This was in June. We had this was the first open streets event in LA that had more people walking than biking. Reimagine Garden Grove is working with the city down there to work with their Main Street as from a business development perspective to how arts and culture could really reignite that area. We have been doing the family festivals at the Getty since 1995. So we work with the curatorial department, the educational department there. We've done about 100 festivals there, and that's taking the art on the walls and translating it for the general populace and for tourists as well. We created Chinatown Summer Nights, which is now wildly successful. That was something where we wanted to use arts and culture as a way to reignite the businesses in Chinatown, which were dormant or languishing at night. Restaurants weren't seeing people. So now this is an enormously successful event, which is run by the Chinatown Business Improvement District. We basically created the template that they now continue to use for the last 6 years. Glow, which was this amazing site-specific art installations on the beach in Santa Monica. We were the producers of that in 2008, 2010, and 2013. It was probably the largest arts event to ever happen in Southern California. 250,000 people showed up at the first one. It went from dusk to dawn overnight.
And there was a jam on the Santa Monica freeway for 5 miles going to it.
Yeah, 3 in the morning. Our role on this is really my company's role is to create the community engagement. And we have a high level of community engagement and things that we're trying to do to make this a very productive public art master planning process. So we did the community engagement for Civic Park, which is now called Grand Park. And one of the things that we developed for that, and we've been doing ever since, is like to do things on site. Instead of doing meetings in a room like this, we prefer to do meetings out in the open, especially when you're dealing with public art, where the things might go. So this Michigan Avenue Neighborhood Greenway in Santa Monica, we did the event on Michigan Avenue to show people what the interventions that could be built might look like. So we actually created the things that could come, like a temporary park that stood in for the real park that might come. And we did a roundabout and other things like that, and then got community feedback right on the spot. Like, what do you think of this? This was a project the same way. Like, this was the Gold Line in East LA. Like, we were trying to get information from the public about what they thought about that. So we did a big family festival, and then we got 500 responses instead of 50 responses. Same thing, we just did this for West Hollywood for their East Side Community Plan as well. So our approach is like to do things that are out of the box, that are on the street. We're also, especially, I worked 25 years in the art world before I encountered Ciclavia, and it really took me into this whole transportation, public planning, public works, the police department, the fire department. So we're really interested in how the arts and culture function in a city in a total way, not just in the one department, but in all departments. So right now our company is working with the LA Department of Transportation. There's an artist in residence at the LA Department of Transportation as well, which is very interesting. And we're coming in as a kind of an arts and cultural program, arts and cultural organization to work on Vision Zero, which is the pedestrian and bicycle safety project. So it's interesting to have arts and culture in all departments, and we're going to be looking at what the possibility of public art is here for that to permeate the city, and so that everyone has buy-in. When all the different departments have buy-in, it's a very different thing. That's what we saw what happened with Ciclavia, which I consider the largest public art performance art thing I've ever created. I think of it as a big, giant performance art thing, but people think of it as a bicycle event. But that's their prerogative. We were interested in using social media, technology. We have some ideas if we wanted to use some different apps and sites to collect data instead of just the traditional way. So there's lots of things that we'd like to bring to this. We're going to be running a 2-tier engagement process with public workshops. We want to do a workshop that the first workshop to coincide with the opening of the library in the spring, and that might be the big public workshop that we would do with the Public Art Master Plan, so that would coincide. We'd like to do a salon about what public art is and thinking about those different meanings of it. Then we'd like to do another meeting in a different neighborhood. We want to do a specific stakeholder meeting where it's not just public. This is actually an invited meeting with people who are involved in the arts in Glendale. We'd like to do walking tours to take people around to look at different sites that might happen. Again, as I said, we use perhaps interactive digital platforms, social media, and we want to really get the word out about this. So it's it's something that the city buys into and the community buys into. Our budget. You have a $125,000 budget attached for this Public Art Master Plan. This is how it breaks out. We would recommend that you might consider having an allocation of $5,000 or $10,000 more for additional marketing. That was something that we talked about with staff, which might be interesting to be able to beef that up. We feel that that kind of engagement would be very important for this. But 32% of it, as you see, this is how it breaks out. There's a lot of it for marketing and engagement, and a lot of it for, of course, for writing the plan itself. We looked at different public art master plans across the country. Some of these were projects that Barbara worked on. So it's interesting that you can see that Montpelier, Vermont has only 8,000 people, but they spent $120,000, almost $114,000, almost as much as we are here. And so the per capita amount is very great, for almost $15 per head. Whereas in Fort Worth, your project there is, what's your budget there?
$120,000.
$120,000 over 800,000 people, I believe. So that it works out. But Glendale fits right in the middle in terms of this. You're not an outlier in terms of how much you're spending on this particular public art master plan. And the idea is to start in January and go through September or October, and basically we start with research, community outreach, a set of initial recommendations. During that time, we're kind of laying the groundwork for what we need to know, and then getting input from the city and from community members, and then working on refining the recommendations and getting into the weeds, and then coming up with the final report. I just wanted to end with this. This is like a great example of something that you're already doing. I just found out about this. I did not know about it until recently, and I thought, wow, what a great idea to take this iconic gas station and to turn it into both a public park and a place for public art. So we wanted to commend you on that. So, questions?
Okay, here we go. Any questions? Comments?
I'll start.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. I appreciate seeing it all laid out, that we certainly all had read their proposal, but it's very different to hear it coming from you and to see it focused more specifically on what we were looking for. So the three questions that I have immediately, one was just understanding the level of policy development that we should expect as part of the reporting. In terms of the outreach, I'm sure you deal with this all the time, but the strategies around overcoming any cultural or language barriers within the community. And with regard to the implementation, you had mentioned, for instance, that Barbara, that you are doing a consulting contract on the implementation of a plan. So with regard to the report that will be coming out for us, what is the expectation of the level of recommendations for how things could be implemented? Because certainly you're aware of our the status of our own budget and our staffing as it is existing currently.
Well, let me take question 1 and 3, and then I'll let him take question 2, although I have opinions about question 2. So question number 1 about policy and what level. I'm going to be looking at what is already in existence top to bottom. I'll be talking to people in the different city departments to hear what their interaction with public art is. I'll be looking at things like budgets and also things like legal issues. And I'll start to identify areas where I think you need to beef things up to develop policy recommendations. When we write the contract, we're going to need to begin to define how many there are, because I've written plans that have had as few as 4 sets of policies to as many as 14, and I'd really like to be able to get my arms around what's needed here. So that'll be part of our contract negotiations, to define what is needed, and there may be other things that come up. In terms of implementation, what I would anticipate will happen is that the plan will have some kind of an implementation grid that looks at short-term, long-term, and medium-term recommendations with locations, type of art, and cost associated with it. I will be looking at your staffing and your staffing needs. I don't know what Glendale's situation is about creating positions and things like that. We may end up recommending that you contract certain things out or that you add staff. I don't know because we haven't gotten there yet. But those are the kinds of things that I would be looking at. I get to do all of the kind of nuts and bolts, talking with people, digging into policies and all of that stuff. I'm so happy to be working with cars because all of the projects that I've been doing lately have relied on working with another entity to do the kind of outreach that cars is going to be doing. And I think that that's absolutely essential because what you really want from a public art program is the buy-in of the public. And so reaching out to people in non-traditional ways is the best way to do that. So I'll let you take that question.
Community Arts Resources has been working with all of the communities of Los Angeles for 30 years now, almost 30 years. And we've time and time again figured out, like, okay, what is it that we need to do for this particular community? In this case, clearly, my understanding of the demographics of Glendale, large Armenian population, large Latino population as well. And if we would definitely want to, what we do internally is we bring in advisors, we bring in people, so we're not just talking to each other. We have a fluent Latino Spanish speaker on staff, but we don't have a fluent Armenian speaker on staff. But for example, what we just did in West Hollywood, the issue was how are we going to reach out to the Russian community there? So, of course, we had Russian speakers on site. We had everything translated into Russian as well. We brought in Russian cultural, as part of the art that we did. Basically what we did was we put on an art festival, and then we disguised, the community engagement was disguised in the art festival. So we thought, well, how are we going to get the people on the east side to come out? So we worked with an artist who created a bread bake, and we had 3 different bakers, 2 of them Russian, from the neighborhood, from different local bakeries, come out and bake in public. And that kind of idea was the idea of, like, that's the way we're going to get people to come out and see that their culture is being reflected back to them, that we're not just coming in from the outside. So each time we try to figure out what's the strategy in Chinatown. I can tell you none of us were Mandarin speakers or Cantonese speakers, and we basically gain the trust of the community. We work with them, and we figure out, like, what is it that we need to learn from them so that we can do effectively what we're doing. We're doing this again right now in Little Tokyo. We have a 5-year contract with Little Tokyo. As the same thing is the same issues that are there. Like, we're dealing with that particular community, and we're very mindful, like, what is it that we need to be thinking about. So that's what we pride ourselves on. That's why we're called Community Arts Resources. We always say that's our first name, and that we don't take for granted that we know everything. What we do is we try to understand, like, who can tell us what we need to know. I hope that answers.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Ara.
Yes. So one comment and one question. So we're very fortunate that you guys have teamed together. I think it's a tremendous kind of team with your experience, Barbara, and Carl being the sort of the producers of art and innovative art. So as you know, I'm sure Glendale, we have a long tradition of art here with the Brand and the Alex, but we have very little tradition of public art, really. So you start from a clean slate, in a sense, right? And so you have tremendous opportunity, but that's also sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because you have this opportunity, but then there's no guidelines in terms of which way to go, which way to turn. And I think a lot of the attitude that you need to bring, in my opinion, to this project is to try to innovate in different directions, right? Not be pulled back, but to try to innovate in a way that has to be somehow unique to Glendale. I'm not sure what that actually means right now, but I think that's part of the process that you have in front of you in terms of starting from a clean slate and being defined by and defining at the same time what that process is and what kind of art is possible to create here in the public sphere. I think that's really critical, and that attitude for innovation. I'm very happy that cars is part of the process here. Is really, really critical. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of, for instance, you work with Pasadena, City of Pasadena, San Jose. You see similarities between those processes and the process that you might bring to Glendale?
The similarities really have to do with things like legal frameworks and policy frameworks. But in terms of what type of art might occur, it's going to be different in every place. And the thing that's really exciting to me about Glendale is exactly what you just identified, that on a certain level, it's a blank slate. I mean, there are historical things, a certain number of historical things, mostly related to architecture, a small number of permanent artworks. There are really interesting cultural traditions here. And I think that as we dig into the community and we look at who lives here, what they think about the place, what the history of the place is, what kind of businesses have been here, are coming here, we'll end up with something that is unique to Glendale. The worst thing that you can do is to have something that's cookie cutter. You want something that's going to speak to the community. And I think that it's going to be really fun to work here and sort of see what people think about what should go in the public realm and what constitutes the kind of art that you have in the public realm. And the fact that the funding that you have is from private development actually gives you a lot more flexibility than if it were coming from 1% for art on construction dollars, although I think you should really look at adding that. But, I mean, you have a lot more flexibility, and that's really a good thing.
And I think you have the opportunity to learn from not the mistakes of what's happened over the last 30 years, but from the experience of other cities over the last 30 years. And public art has rapidly changed, and the role of art has changed. And so we have this opportunity for the city to actually come out in front of many of the other cities around Los Angeles County. I hope.
Well, I would like to say that I'm overwhelmed with all the background and expertise that I see, whatever has been presented here. So we are very glad to have you to help us with art in this community. Meanwhile, we are a very interesting community. I'm sure you'll find out very soon. More than 50% are Armenian descent. And we have a great wealth of, actually the largest Armenian population outside Armenia is in Glendale. So that's something very unique about the city. Plus, it's a very diverse city and likes to be diverse. And we have a great wealth of art and artists within the community that needs to come alive, needs to be used and utilized, and meanwhile, we want all of that to end up with an economic prosperity for the community. So I know there are too many things, but I do believe that you would combine and fuse those two and make us as vibrant as we could be.
Better to have too many than to have too few.
And I'm happy that I started producing Armenian theater in 1986 with Nora Armani in downtown LA, and then we produced many different Armenian festivals at the Getty and Armenian cultural groups. So I do have somewhat of an appreciation of some of the groups that are already here in Southern California, and I'm really looking forward to delving into it deeper. And I think that what I'm excited about is to see, I know that there's a very vibrant cultural community here, and I'm hoping that we can, through this work, create a framework so that they can flourish. As we heard just today, like there's all these things going on, and I'd like to see that be brought to a more prominent position in the city and in the county, so that other people know what's going on. Because I think that you, especially where you are, where Glendale is. I mean, I live just over the border in Los Feliz, like about 3/4 of a mile. So I ride my bike down here. It's an easy thing to do, and there's this interrelationship between where Glendale sits right now, and you basically, as I said before at the very beginning, like from when I thought about what Glendale represented when in the 60s to where it is now, you have a much different role in the infrastructure and the ecology of arts and culture in Southern California.
I can say we are very proud of that, and we want to see that flourish much more, and all the diversity to shine within the American concept of what in the world we live. So that is a major artwork, but we'll see how it works.
Go ahead. Oh, great. First, thank you for your presentation. We are very impressed by your background. Clearly, that's what got you to this point. So I have a few questions. I'll do it one at a time, so make it a little bit easier. So I think one of the driving forces is that now the Urban Art Fund is at approximately $5 million. And I think part of the driving force of why we need a public art plan is to figure out what the most responsible way to spend those dollars are so that they're most effective and to maximize kind of the public benefit that can come from them. Right. And so with that in mind, I look at the budget and I look at it, the way I personally look at it is it's 2 to 3% of that fund. And I think that's a responsible amount of money to spend on developing the plan so that we can maximize those dollars. But with that said, I've been to many community meetings over the years through just different nonprofits and community work. I've seen low attendance at many, and so I've seen with some of the creative ideas you've brought, but kind of in terms of the budget, what type of creativity should we expect in terms of the different ways you're going to be going into the communities and basically gathering enough accurate data so that we can make the proper decisions through planning?
As I was trying to show, I really hope that we're going to, we have, what we outlined was a 2-tiered community engagement process. And almost all of it is outside, is like really engaging with people as much as we can in the public realm. And we definitely need a robust marketing, outreach, and engagement plan to get people there as well. But I'm very confident that our strategy and our approach will bring hundreds, if not thousands of people to be engaged with that process as opposed to scores and dozens. The idea is to take advantage of places or events that are already attracting people so that we're not just doing, so for example, if there's the opening of the library, we should take advantage of that and that public event, which we hope will bring a lot of people from the community for that sense of pride, and take advantage of that and let's use that as a public meeting. And you don't need to call it a public meeting, but you create those engagement opportunities while they're happening, and you do that with arts and culture as well. And I love looking at what Barbara did with working with artists, because that's exactly what we do as well. So we're going to figure stuff out like that and just try to make sure that we do get a diverse group of the community engaged.
Yeah, Aaron and I were talking about this earlier because I'm working on an outreach strategy in Fort Worth right now where we're creating a series of pop-up events in places where people gather there, like their marathon event or their festival of Our Lady of Guadalupe and things like that. And what we've done with the outreach is we've created, the artist team that we hired has created a kind of fun, engaging project that people can participate in. And in their participation, we're actually measuring real things like what age group they are and what types of things they're interested in. And it's a kind of stealth way of gathering information because it's an event that they are excited about, and it also results in our being able to see what types of art they're interested in or how they define their community or what age group they come from and that kind of thing. And we've done it so that it's bilingual, so that that people that come from different backgrounds are able to participate in whatever language they feel comfortable with. And so that's an aspect that we'll be talking about is how do you actually both engage people and also gather data that's going to be useful as you go forward.
Yeah. And follow-up to that is that what the additional marketing needs were targeted for specifically bringing out enough people and making enough people aware, or is it more so for awareness of the overall project?
I was hoping, when I was looking at this last time, I met with Sharon and Cindy, and we looked at I was just saying, well, maybe we should just beef this up, and it's something that you could do as a not necessarily build into the contract, but say that if necessary, we can look, because we don't have it all figured out in terms of like how much money we're going to be spending and how we're going to be spending it. And again, if you have, for example, if the timing works out and we can coincide with the library, then maybe there's a lot of marketing that's already going on for that, and we piggyback onto that, and so we don't need to spend as much. But the idea was to have additional funds for marketing, for postcards, flyers, ad buys, both in traditional media and digital media, just to get the word out if necessary. We're also looking at a platform, a digital app that allows people to engage. It's called Co-Urbanize. It's something that's being used on the East Coast to get people's input and data as they're walking along. So there's like a sign that says that next to a public art, maybe a piece of public art, and what do you think of public art? And then it engages people in a very creative way. I didn't bring any examples, but I was thinking about it. And we're just looking at this new app and this new platform and thinking, well, maybe we should do something like that as well, so that people can actually, while they're walking, engage with it and go to the website or go to the app instead of necessarily having to come to the event. We could also do this online, where we create a platform online where people who don't attend to the event will then go to GlendalePublicArt.com and put in your comments here. That's another possibility too.
I just want to add to what Aaron's saying, that we do have significant infrastructure in place already for community engagement that Goldstein may not even know about. We are very in touch with our neighborhood associations. We have really, really strong civic organizations in Glendale, so we may be able to accomplish what Aaron's referring to without additional dollars. So all that is for negotiation.
Go ahead. Last question was just for our education, also the public's education. So October 2017, plan is ready. In your experience, kind of what is the track after that for most cities that you've seen in terms of how soon after do they start implementing a lot of the things projected in the plan?
Well, part of it, forgive me, but I don't know what your fiscal year is, but what I would say is what you're going to do is you as a commission are going to review and adopt the plan. You should bring it to your city council and ask them to adopt it, particularly if there are any changes in procedures. Some places procedures don't rise to the city council level. Other places they do. We'd have to take a look at that. But at minimum, you're going to want your city council to adopt it so that they're embracing it. And then I would say that you're going to want to build whatever the first year's recommendations are into your work plan and into the budget, so that depending on where the fiscal year lies or where you do your budget, I would say the next budget cycle you want to get going with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a few things to say. Well, first of all, thank you for coming. And we met once before, and we Skype with you.
Yes.
It's nice to see you here, and this is a great opportunity for us to discuss a future art program or art vision, I'm going to call it, for City of Glendale. Now, in the past few years or many years, we've been doing a lot of events, but not through a vision directly. Where are we heading? So this is a first step for us. As Commissioner Ara said, it says open plate, and we're going to do whatever we can to make a stamp, not just for us, as also as Southern California general area. Couple things. Our vision is not just about putting public art in City of Glendale. We want to make a statement. We are a jewel city, so therefore the jewel stands out. We're not Pasadena, we're not Santa Monica, we're not Venice Beach, we're not LA, but we do have some type of rich and very concentrated art that we can flourish, and that's your challenge. I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of hurdles, and we're going to hit a lot of bumps, but I'm sure with your experience, and I can say at least two of us here, we have a good public art background, and we are being challenged to solve those. And therefore, it's not just what we're going to do for the public, it's also what we're going to do for our society and all general California, Southern California as an area. Specific questions. Now, during the process, we're going to have a lot of people coming up with ideas. Why want to do this? Why want to do that? Now, I'm sure we're going to have some extreme ideas from left to right or up and down, or from rock concert to whatever it is. How are we going to process those? And if we have like 20 different ideas and they're all good, how are you going to process it and how are you going to present it to us, first of all? And then are we going to discuss those issues in our meeting here, or are we going to leave them during their meetings with the stakeholders and then present it to City Hall, the City Council?
I can take a part of that. Part of the plan, in terms of the work plan with Goldstein and their timing, is that Barbara's visits are timed to your meetings so that we can bring issues forward to this forum whenever possible. We can also schedule, special meetings, but we're timing her time to your time. We're already, committed to being here. So we kind of look forward to doing that.
Okay.
But one of the things that you asked about, though, I'm used to hearing a lot of different ideas from people. And it's really important when we're doing these kinds of investigations to try to frame the questions that we ask at a very high level and to be able to use our own filters to understand that if somebody says something very specific, they might not really be thinking about something really specific. They might be thinking about a concept. So like lots of people say, we want stars on the sidewalk to recognize all the famous people that did X, Y, and Z in our city or that were born in our city. That is a very literal idea that can be realized in a lot of different ways besides stars in the sidewalk, right? So, or somebody might say, I want a piece of sculpture that looks like this because they really are talking about something that symbolizes an idea. So it's part of our job to listen to what people are saying and try to distill it to what they really mean, because people don't necessarily have the words to describe what it is that they want. They have the words to describe what they've already seen. And I think that what we would want to do with a plan like this is to try to raise things to the highest possible level, to make them authentic to Glendale, to help them, to make them something that also connects to the way that the city is growing, the way that the city sees itself growing, and try to accomplish the goals rather than do things that are very literally what people say.
All right, any second round of questions? Yes.
Yes. It's a request. I don't know how this could be utilized. Being 12 years with the Commission and 34 years in this city, very involved with communities, with Glendale Unified School District, which is the large population it entails, and with the city as well. I would like to see something happening to our city in the form of arts and culture that brings many people to our community. With participating in many community events, I do not see as much participation as I would like to see of the Glendalians itself. So something should be so innovative, it should be so different that people leave their houses to go and participate, number one. And I would like to see people from other sister cities or neighborhood to be here, which could help our restaurants, which could help bring a lot of money and productivity to the community and the artists as well. So I don't know how this could be done, but I really would like to see having more people coming to events and having more people from outside Glendale to participate and make Glendale a destination for whatever you guys are going to map for us. So I don't know how that would be done, but that would be my personal request from you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I would just what we're tasked to do is the public art master plan.
Yes.
Not an entire arts and cultural plan.
That's right.
Which could be very beneficial for you. I'm just going to put that in. Because the issues, we're only going to be dealing with a part of the issue, and there's a whole other side that we're leaving out. So we're leaving out, for example,
performing arts.
We were leaving out a system of supporting, for example, a grant system that would support arts and cultural organizations here. So that you have, where do the arts and cultural organizations and the artists who live here go to apply for funding to do projects in Glendale? So is there, like in the city of Los Angeles, the city of Santa Monica, and West Hollywood, you can apply to those cities and get a grant to do projects in those cities. So those are the things that are not part of this, which
and I
are
don't
actually...
want that. I don't want that. That's not what I said. What I
so
want
let me- but-
is bring people in.
And so in order, and the idea of like creating, like for example, a signature event which would put Glendale on the map in kind of the larger sector is, I don't believe that's quite in here as well. I mean, that's something that's a kind of a special event as opposed to like a public art. It would suck up your whole $5 million budget in a way that doesn't quite fit it into there. I see that as something that, like other cities develop these kind of signature festivals, like the Rose Bowl, the Rose Parade and things like that. And if there's something like that you want to pursue, we can put that in and see if, in terms of the public engagement, to see if that's one of the things that catches fire. That's what people are looking for.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, one more question. So we have a nice large budget, but probably not that large, $5 million. And what we would like to do, as Gerardo was saying, is really we want to make, in this competitive kind of art space, that there's Santa Monica with their Glow Festival, which is an amazing festival. It's West Hollywood with their own public art. Pasadena being very technologically oriented public art with Caltech and these kinds of engagements. We want to be able to differentiate ourselves, right, from this kind of crowded public art space. Do you see that with $5 million? Do you see sort of the future? Do you see that it's possible, really, to kind of be able to do that kind of differentiation and have a presence that people say, oh, well, I don't want to go to Santa Monica this weekend. I want to go to Glendale because there's something going on. They have a great plan, something like that. Do you see
You're
that
not going
happening?
to get everything for $5 million. You'll get a start.
You get a start.
Quite honestly. I mean, just in response to the idea of destination, for example, let's say that, you're developing some significant park space here. People always talk about destination art. If you think about places like the High Line in New York or Millennial Park in Chicago, the large artworks there that people see as their signature works are pieces that cost $15 or $20 million. Right. So I think that what we're going to do for you is to create a roadmap that has certain steps along the way and creates some stretch goals for you that will involve finding additional funds. But I think that $5 million is a really great place to start.
I have that stance, right? They know when I'm thinking because I start doing this. No, I was just wondering about, this came up in your discussion here, about the integration of space with regard to the planning. Because what we're talking about really is setting infrastructure, setting direction, setting a roadmap. We're going to have to kind of breathe life into, more specifically, I'm thinking. So I'm just wondering about any thoughts that you have with regard to the role of space within our public realm for the different types of public art. Because I consider, in some ways, space to be hand in hand, right, with art, with public art. You can't have one without the other.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the reason to look at what kinds of plans are in the works here, to look at the potential for art being integrated into infrastructure and architectural space, to look at whether you want developers to be integrating more art into their own work, or when the city builds, whether it's building roads or buildings, whether you want art to be integrated into that, to look at the nature of spaces that already exist that could be reinforced with the creation of art. And those are all the kinds of things that we'll be looking at as we do the nuts and bolts pieces of it, looking at the city's plans, looking at its comprehensive plan, urban design plans, talking to the transportation department, parks, all of those people, and looking at the actual spaces and how they're meant to grow over time.
But we all want to create, I think, having grown up in Southern California, the area has changed, and what it's changed is it's now become a more walkable place. And what we want to do, I think we want to basically people have this sense of neighborhood and sense of place, but we need to reinforce that. And arts and culture can play a critical role in giving people a sense of place, about belonging to the place, and that changes their whole sense of civic engagement, like feeling like they're part of that city and they want to take part in the things that happen there. So Cicla Via for me is like the largest example of that, where we have all of this space, like the streets that we had basically written off as for cars, and they weren't for us. And the idea is to flip that on its head and say, why? I mean, we own that space. It's our space. It belongs to all of us. It doesn't have to be programmed the way it's been programmed for the last 80 years. So the idea of looking at any space and seeing the potential there is something that I think Barbara and I both bring a lot of experience to the table, and that's something that we're going to be bringing, hopefully, to Glendale as well.
Thank you.
I think we exhausted our questions at this phase. Any other comments from you guys? You want to?
Well, it sounds like you're ready. You're just raring to go. So that's really exciting for us.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I hope our recommendations to the City Council will work. Good. And you guys can do the presentation there, and most probably I'll be there too to watch you and listen to you too.
Thank you.
So we'll be there at City Council again, right?
Yes, which is November.
We need a motion to approve.
Yes. Okay. We'll go one step at a time. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion to recommend Cars Goldstein and recommendation to take it to the City Council at their November 15th, 2016 meeting, provided that we're finished with our negotiation.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion second. Seconded.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Derhovanesian, Oshigan,
Yes.
Sahakian,
Yes.
Chairperson Sharikian.
Yes. Thank you.
I'd just like to add amen to that.
Okay, and we are on business agenda, action item number 1. Do you want to take a break, a few minutes, or are we? No?
Actually, we can go through this pretty quickly. Can you put up the PowerPoint for me?
Item 5A1, motion to approve an allocation of $70,000 from temporary art in public spaces for painted crosswalk installations in conjunction with Glendale Safety Streets. This is item 5A2.
That's fine. And Yvonne, if you wouldn't mind putting up the PowerPoint there. Basically, this is kind of a fun one. Staff recommends that the Commission approve a new allocation of $70,000 from the Temporary Art and Public Spaces program of the Urban Art Fund. Including in the work plan is an allocation of $100,000 for temporary art and public places, of which $3,000 has been expended so far. Staff has been presented with a very interesting opportunity to achieve Arts and Culture Commission goals in concert with a citywide Safe and Healthy Streets initiative that's being spearheaded by the Community Development Department. The initiative's motto is creating a better place to walk or ride your bike. The opportunity for Arts and Culture Commission involvement is through funding painted crosswalks at the entry points to the Art and Entertainment District along Maryland Avenue, a district in the city developed to encourage safe pedestrian activity in the downtown. The crosswalks are designed to last 2 to 5 years, depending on the materials utilized. Just a little background is that the vision for Safe and Healthy Streets initiative is to create a healthier community and provide transportation options for those who cannot or do not drive. In 2010, a Safe and Healthy Streets plan was adopted. The stated plan purpose was as follows. The design of our city, work sites, and streets influences how much physical activity we get and plays an important role in preventing many chronic conditions such as obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and asthma. There's compelling research data that shows that streets designed to facilitate walking and biking are safer and succeed in increasing the number of people who walk or bike. Glendale's Safe and Healthy Streets plan has the potential to boost levels of physical activity and help reverse current obesity trends. And to encourage pedestrian activity and similar municipal initiatives, several communities across the country have installed painted crosswalks. And I just want to show you a couple of those. They can be really fun. This is a 3D optical illusion painted crosswalk. This is a really beautiful, just a graphic vibrancy painted crosswalk in Miami. There's lots of them in Miami. This one's in Lompoc. It's thematic. Lompoc would like to be known more as a wine destination, so they've put in some wine bottles and wine glasses. Could be commercial. This one is interactive. It's hopscotches in the crosswalk. And then this one is just a really beautiful, vibrant, colorful one. So if the Arts and Culture Commission is interested in this project, our next steps would be to work with Public Works to define the parameters, confirm the locations, and confirm the budget. Present that to the City Council as a consent item, and then once having the City Council's consent, move forward with the Arts and Culture Commission to issue a call to artists and select the artwork. I'm recommending a budget of $70,000 because I've looked at a number of painted crosswalks, and it appears that one color is not as impactful. That would be on the low end of pricing as the ones that are multicolored and multi-layered. So we would need to go to Public Works and figure out what makes sense for them, what makes sense for the safety of our residents and our commuters, and to really see what that budget would be. But I think $70,000 would achieve our goal. So that's an opportunity.
Questions? Let's talk about this.
Yeah, so how many crosswalks then? I mean,
that would be for 7 legs of a crosswalk, each leg being one crossover. The area that we're talking about doing would be in front of the Central Library, which would be 3
one
legs.
crosswalk?
One crosswalk is about $10,000.
Really?
All 4 legs of an intersection would be about $40,000. I must say I was surprised with the cost as well. It's because...
But why is that? Yeah.
The artwork itself is not expensive. It's the actual laying of the layers of the stenciling, and to make sure that it works with all the rules and regulations of what crosswalks have to be. So it's a significant undertaking, and looking at all the different case studies that we had, we developed a range of costs somewhere between $6,000 and $13,000 per leg. So my recommendation is that we would go on the higher end and be spending about $10,000 per leg if we were to do this.
And what's the lifespan?
2 to 5 years. And we would be asking our Public Works Department to either deinstall them when they had worn away, or to come back to this commission to ask for additional funding to have them redone.
And are we... Oh, questions, go ahead.
Well, it sounds very exciting and pretty and all that, but with the amount of money spent, I thought maybe we could have something that stays for a longer period of time, or some innovative idea, one of those Commissioner Oshagan's ideas that, kind of is permanent, could have maybe been a better way of spending money, but I don't know. That's also beautiful, and etc. So I don't know. The money part kind of, to me, seems that I understand that's the cost, but for 2 years and for that to spend 70, to me, it seems quite a lot of money.
Well, the permanence makes the price go higher. So I asked our consultants, or the Safe and Healthy Streets consultant, to price something out between 2 to 5 years to see what that would cost. I didn't ask them to price out anything that would last a longer period of time, but they did indicate that makes the price tag go way up.
I know, but with 70, they guarantee the 2-year part, kind of.
Correct.
Well, I wish if we could have all the colorful crosswalks, maybe we could have different organizations like McDonald's or etc. They would pay the cost, because that could be a kind of an advertisements for different organizations we have in the city. So we would have colorful walkways for only one street, paid by the different commercial businesses around, and then use the $70,000 if possible. I'm not a good person with money, but nonetheless, I would like to see that $70,000 with something that is more permanent and kind of something different. But
that is well taken. I do agree that this is an expensive proposition, and I did thoroughly vet the costs, and I do believe that that's what it costs. So it's really up to this commission if it's something that you want to pursue. If you want to think about it and bring it back to the next meeting, that's also possible. But it's a really beautiful opportunity for us to do something within the Art and Entertainment District, to join the city in a citywide initiative. The city came to the Arts and Culture Commission with this opportunity, especially the Urban Design Studio, and they're very excited about it. And we did vet whether or not the Urban Art Fund could pay for this and whether or not that was permissible, and it indeed is. So, all of your comments are very well taken.
So the only thing I have is that if we could have different businesses pay for that, it's an excellent idea.
Well, we can certainly investigate
Research,
that
yeah.
over the next month and to see if there might be any interest in that. We do have a number of new businesses in the city. Also, there's the issue that crosswalks have to look like crosswalks.
Yes.
So if it looks like something other than a crosswalk, it could be considered unsafe by Public
Dangerous,
Works.
yeah. I can understand.
I can do some investigation on that, find out if it's possible to have sort of sponsored crosswalks by our merchants or by our organizations, and bring that back to your November meeting. I realize and I appreciate that this is a very hefty price tag, so it may be something that we need to talk about over the next meeting.
So I have two questions also kind of related to the same. One being, it's coming from the temporary art fund. So the idea that it lasts 2 to 5 years is actually pretty long temporary art from that standpoint if we're looking at it from our budget. So I just don't have the numbers on top of my head. What does that do to, what is our overall budget for this fiscal plan, which goes through June of 2017, 18? I don't know why the numbers aren't working for me right now, but
the total for June up to 2017 is $380,000. $100,000 of that was allocated to temporary art. We've only spent $3,000 of the temporary art money, and we've spent it on the Maryland entertainment stuff.
So this is what we've allocated, and come June of this coming June, that we need to spend down that money and in some temporary.
We've agreed to spend that much
if we
want to.
If we have temporary art, so we don't have anything in the planning right now in terms of any other programs that or art. Calls or anything. So this would essentially be our art call for the temporary art program.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that I'll be presenting the work plan for 2017-18 to you over maybe next meeting or the next one. And one thing that I would propose is that we participate in Tech Week. We were unable to participate in Tech Week last time because we didn't have enough time to get it together. But I think that the rest of this temporary art budget could be allocated to Tech Week. And that's just off the top of my head.
Although we will be switching into a new plan by then anyway, so we could allocate forward. So my other question is, in the cursory conversations you've had with Public Works around this, is there an infrastructure cost that they might be looking at anyway because they are allocating to redo crosswalks when the library opens? So is potentially some of their infrastructure money going in, and we're bringing in a component of it, so that the cost overall is probably higher and we are a portion of that?
The short answer is I don't know.
Okay.
So that would be something that I'd be talking to them about. I didn't want to approach them and start negotiating this, talking to artists, figuring out what this costs until I had your blessing and until you guys were on board. I did anticipate that this cost was high and would not be just something you would just say, yes, okay. So I will take that as homework and
yeah, I think that'd be interesting to know. But I will say overall, this is actually the kind of thing that I think is kind of exciting, frankly. I mean, I do think it's important. I think it makes a statement. I think it shows that a city is seeing beyond a statue and sometimes even just some of the pop-up arts that we're doing, and we're committing to it as an infrastructure, arts and infrastructure. The fact that it came out of the urban design team, I think, shows that people are thinking about it outside of the silo of the arts and culture. So I actually think it's a great idea. I think if we have the funding that we need to allocate it to a program, and I think this is as innovative as anything, frankly. So I'm actually not thrown off. I mean, it's certainly more than I would have expected, but I understand, reading through the examples that were provided, what goes into it, depending on what we want, ultimately, in terms of the design and how it would lay in. So I actually think it's kind of cool, and I'm supportive of it.
I think it's very avant-garde. I think it's the type of program that cities that are looking forward are looking at. I think that the best part of it is that it's a citywide initiative for safe and healthy streets, and it's using arts and culture money to help the streets be more safe in an artistic and cultural way. So I'm very excited about it, but I am cautious about the cost, and if you'd like me to go back and do the investigation, I'll be happy to do that. Or you can move to allocate the $70,000. We're still going to do all the same investigation, and then move forward with City Council on a consent item, then come back to you. So you have those two choices.
I had a quick question. The variation from 3 to 12,000 for each leg. I noticed that we're paying each artist a stipend of 3,000. So, what is that extra difference that it could be made? Is it infrastructure? Is it paint, supplies? What is that?
It's the latter. It's the infrastructure. It's the paints, the supplies. The artists are not going to do the installation. The artists will come up with the design. So my thought was we'd have one artist to design one intersection and another artist to design the other intersection. So that's a total of $6,000. The other $62,000 would be about installing the artwork. Depending on how many colors you have, they're installed in layers. So there's a stencil made, then one layer, then another stencil, then another layer. There's also the issue of shutting down the street while the stuff is installed and while it dries, diverting traffic. All those things add to the cost. So as you add more layers, you add more time for the work, you add more time that the street is shut down, more people diverting traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So the more complicated the design, the more pricey it becomes. However, I did see some designs that were just one color, and I thought they were not very impactful, the ones that are in Pasadena. They're nice, but they're not impactful. Also, the fact that forgive me, Pasadena, but also the fact that they're not contiguous, that there's one here, one there throughout the Playhouse District, I thought was a missed opportunity for Pasadena. So what I'm recommending is that we do several layers of color and that they be contiguous within one crosswalk, with one intersection.
I mean, as a project, just as Commissioner Deaver said, I love this because it's, as far as visibility, it's going to be seen by a lot more people than when you compare it to something like our Beyond the Box program, which is completely loved, but in terms of how many people are going to be exposed to it on a daily level. But for me personally as well, I would like to see it come back with more detail. And also, I think we have a very clear process about the selection of artists when it comes to Beyond the Box, where we have 2 commissioners on the committee. I'd like to see that same level of detail in the motion as well before we expend, $70,000 from the fund towards the project.
Yeah, we would definitely have to appoint a committee to make the selection for the artwork. We recommend 2 commissioners for that, so that would be the fun part. There are a number of artists around the country that are very interested in this strategy, so I think we would definitely get a national response.
I would like to add a few points regarding, it's always about location. So I want to make sure that whatever we choose those art sidewalk, cross street, let's make it a prime location where we can have maximum attendance or maximum people walking on them. Can it be used also a technology, something without paint, that means lighting?
Oh, I see what you'd like. Like
I don't know, some type of design instead of painting, instead of some type of light. We have, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it.
Well, when I worked in the mall business, they were called gobos, and they would be light projected things on the ground.
Or coming from underneath.
Underneath, maybe.
Yeah, there's a number of ways that you could do it. I think that, though, that painted crosswalks is kind of a tried and true methodology.
Timetable, that means if something like this, if it would start during I wouldn't say winter season because of the raining, but so if we do eventually approve something like this, we're looking at in next year, February, March.
I would think that the critical time to install the crosswalks would be before the Central Library opens. That it would be another feature of the Art and Entertainment District, and the downtown. The two intersections we selected were the one in front of the library and the one at the other end of the Art and Entertainment District. And the reason for that is that there's so much city momentum on making that district walkable, both from an urban design perspective and also just culturally. The businesses are there, the people are walking in and out of the parking lots there, so those are the most opportune spaces we felt to put the crosswalks.
Would you please?
I'm sorry?
Would you please go ahead include all those information in your package for your next presentation, so we can have a broader vision? And I do agree with my colleagues that $70,000 is sufficient enough. Like we thought, the master plan, we started with 50,000 and we end up with agreeing on 120. So this is something more feasible. Yeah. But therefore, I don't know if we don't have any other. Okay.
Couple. So the 70,000, does that include all the traffic development and all that stuff? Is that A to Z?
Yes.
So maybe we can partner with who's providing us with
our own Public Works Department.
Maybe the Public Works can pay for the public diverting the traffic and all that.
We've pretty much.
Isn't that possible? No.
Killed that horse.
Kill that horse. Kill that horse.
Our Public Works Department is a very labor-intensive department, and it's very expensive. All those costs are contained within there. There's no department really that has funding for that. The Public Works Department is under a very strict funding structure to only provide what's necessary for the public safety. So it will be on this commission to do something above and beyond that. But in light of what Commissioner Deaver said, what were they going to do already, and what's the net? And just to make sure that the cost that I've allocated doesn't include something that Public Works was already going to do.
So I think my thought would be, I think this is an interesting thing to do. I think it would really beautify spaces in downtown, but I think we have to put it next to other projects that we may have for public arts, right? So if we have 5 projects and we see that this is going to be expensive, but it's going to be the most impactful, I think then I don't have an issue with it. But I think just coming up with just one idea, saying let's fund this, as opposed to some other ideas, I think I think it's premature. I feel like it's premature just to jump on the ship real quick.
My understanding is we do have $100,000 allocated already. We only spent $3,000 of it, so it's not like we're coming up with new money, but it's something there. But we haven't spent it yet. So this program will make it.
Do we have a plan to come up with other ideas for that public art fund?
Actually, the temporary art in public spaces, that the spirit of that allocation was opportunities that come up. That was the spirit of that allocation. So this is an opportunity that has come up, and it's very much in the spirit of that allocation.
Well,
however, it is 70% of the allocation, so it's significant.
But there's only so many more months left in our 2-year budget. And so the idea that we're going to, with everything going on, that we're going to maybe in February or sometime start saying, well, let's throw a bunch of ideas together and implement that. I mean, you start running up against the time. I mean, just because things go so quickly.
For clarity, if unspent, does it carry over to our 2017-18?
Yes, I mean, it's all from the Urban Art Fund. The sort of legality or technicality with it is that this has already been pre-approved by the City Council. So the City Council has said, yes, you can spend $100,000 on temporary art in public spaces. So we wouldn't have to go back to them and ask them to allocate the money. We'd have to go back and say, this is what we plan to do. Are you okay with us doing this, from a stewardship point of view?
So, from what I gather, everybody kind of likes the idea, thinks it's exciting, and etc. It's just a little bit more details on that. For me, it is the duration of the thing, the work that the project we are paying is kind of. But maybe that's the cost. I don't know. I cannot agree. I cannot discuss that because that's not my area of expertise. But the money seems a little bit. But the idea, the project seems an exciting one.
To start the process, I think we need a motion. If we do agree to go next step, then we need to have a motion, and we can advise our staff to work on it to prepare a detailed program. Is that the process? Should be.
Chair Sharikian and Commissioners, I mean, you don't necessarily have to take any action today, and you can ask staff to come back, or you can make a motion to ask staff to present more information that you've asked for at the next meeting.
I would like to make a motion. Staff brings it back with more details in terms of cost and process.
And I'll second it.
Location to all a lot of details. Okay. So
terrific.
Do we all agree on that? Is it okay?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah. Okay. It looks like you have.
Do we have to do
roll call?
Yeah, roll call.
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Derhavanessian?
Yes.
Oshigan?
Yes.
Sahakian?
Yes.
Chairperson Sharikian?
Yes. Okay. And we have item number 6. Any comments?
Yeah.
I do have a staff comment. I'd just like to say that I'm very happy to let you know that the AHA program, Call to Artists, has been released. It is now out there, and people can call us up and talk about their programs. We've heard from 3 artists already that are interested in the AHA program, and some very out-of-the-box thinking. We didn't expect to get a response this quickly, so we haven't determined our selection process. But I will be calling on Commissioners Deaver and Oshigan to get together with me again and talk about how we intend to proceed with evaluating the submissions. So right now we're in the phase of publicity. We've constructed a flyer. We're sending it out to the universities. We think that the universities can be fertile ground for this type of work, and we're really excited about moving forward.
Okay. Any other comments from our commissioners? Yes.
I just wanted to thank Sharon and the entire staff. This past weekend was a very busy weekend for all the different projects going on between the Open Studio Tour and also the new utility boxes going in. And if I could make a recommendation for something we bring back on the agenda, I'd love to see, as the boxes were going up, it was kind of the same issue where a lot of residents were going up to the artists and saying, oh, have you painted all the artists or all the boxes that are throughout the city? And I think there's a lack of awareness from community members that it's driven by the city Library Arts and Culture Department and also the commission. I'd love to see if there are branding opportunities or some way where we can start labeling the boxes, and I'm sure there's a cost associated with that in more detail.
Well, when I do come back with your work plan, it will include the branding of the Arts and Culture Commission. We do see that that's an opportunity that we really need to pursue, especially in light of the public art master planning. As the public art master plan consultants move forward, we'd like to have them branded by the Arts and Culture Commission as agents of your organization. So that's definitely something that's on our radar, and we'll be bringing that back in our new proposed work plan.
Okay. Any other comments?
The folks who are presenting earlier have gone, but I just want to say I think it was really exciting in general to get such great feedback. It was a busy meeting, but to hear all of the results of our Open Fest and the Art Walk and the Paseo and the studio to art walks. Anyway, I just thought that was really exciting, and I also just want to remind everybody about our this weekend, which Mr. White had mentioned earlier, but at the Adams Hill gas station from 4:30 to 6 o'clock on Saturday is the inaugural art installation celebration for the program that we sponsor through the commission. There's 4 throughout the year, but that'll be the first one, and there's a Halloween contest for dogs, and there's going to be arts activity sponsored by the a library in Adams Hill for the children as part of that event. So we just invite everybody to come out. It should be a lot of fun, food truck, everything.
And I would like to add what Commissioner Sahakian was saying, that there are so many activities that really the department and the commission takes over, and we do have different organizations provide those services to us, but we are the main sponsors of it, and many people in the community are not even aware. The same goes with the boxes, the same goes with Open Studio Tour. None of the artists even knew about the Art and Culture Commission. I know somewhere small little was written that our chair was trying to explain to me, but basically nobody's aware how much work is being done by the department and the commission, and I would like to see some more acknowledgement within our own artist community as well, and then later on hopefully for the world, because you guys are we are here, we say what we want, but you guys make it happen, and they need to be aware of it.
Agreed. No one is more interested in branding the Arts and Culture Commission than I. So, as your staff, I definitely see that as a very, very high priority.
Okay. Any other comments? I think
We are
we're
past
done.
our time, I think.
Okay.
Right?
And last item is meeting adjourned.